Good evening. My name is Jennifer Campbell. I'm the interim city manager for the city of Encinitas. With us today is our sheriff's captain, Captain Herbert Taft from the North Coast Sheriff Station. We also have with us today Nadia Binderup. She is the community relations director for the San Diego Sheriff's Department. So thank you both for being here. Tonight we're going to have a law enforcement community forum. First of all, I want to thank all the folks watching at home. Thank you very much. Also, thank you to the folks that RSVP'd and our participants in our meeting tonight. I do appreciate that. Hopefully everyone's patient and we will get through this in this new world that we live in and the different types of communication. This is one of our first meetings where we'll be taking some live comments. So we're very excited that everyone's able to participate and share their comments and questions. Tonight's meeting will be from 6 to 8 p.m. We will start off by Captain Taft doing a PowerPoint presentation about some statistics on law enforcement here in the city of Encinitas. We'll go over some of the community concerns and response that the Sheriff Gore went ahead and prepared, and that was attached with the press release that we had for the meeting. And then after that, we will turn it over to all the folks that RSVP'd for comments. Would like to remind everyone that comments, you have a maximum of 2 minutes. We will be timing folks for the comments. We'll let you know when your time is up. We're looking forward to some meaningful questions and comments and being respectful of one another and in being able to share ideas in a safe space. And we're very excited that you join us tonight. And we're very honored and privileged to have our sheriff's captain here to discuss law enforcement in the city of Encinitas. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in and participating. And we really appreciate it. And I will now turn it over to Captain Herbert Taft.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. This is a little bit different because I feel like I'm talking to myself in a mirror. So it's going to take me a few minutes to kind of get used to this format because typically my style is that I really like to engage people in person. I think it's much more personal. You get to see that person face to face. And you get to exchange ideas back and forth or concerns. And it's just really a better way of communicating. This is not how I typically do it, but this is how I have to do it now. So this is typically what I would do is coffee with the community. I've done several of them here in the city of Encinitas, Solana Beach, and Del Mar, where I invite the public to come and talk. To listen to a presentation and then to ask those questions and hopefully we can answer some of them. So this is really like a coffee with the community, except it's being done this way because of our current situation. So I'll get started. I hope that at the end of the night, I accomplished a couple things. Actually, more than a couple things. I think most of you don't know who I am. I've tried to meet as many people as I could while I've been here, but most of you really don't know who I am. And I think that's critical to understand who the captain is, who is head of law enforcement, who sets the standard, who directs the deputies on what to do. I think that's really important that you understand where I come from. I will try to answer as many of your questions as I can. I'm going to tell you this, that you'll like some of my answers. Some of them you won't. Some of you will leave here feeling pretty good. Some of you will have a different opinion, and that's okay. I have no issue with opinions. I welcome them. Again, I will try to address as many of them as I can. Some of the answers you'll like and some of them you won't. But you'll have some sort of answer for most of the questions. So what's the format like tonight? Because I really want to try to save time for all the people who have questions. So what's the format? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about our community concerns document that was put out by our department. Now that's an overall of the Sheriff's Department. Nadia was a big part of this document. And so I just want to kind of highlight some things in that. I'm not going to go into any detail because that's not what this form is about. This form is about the city of Encinitas, and that's what I'm going to focus on. But there are some things in there that I just want to highlight. You can ask questions about some of the stuff in there. If I can answer it, I will. But again, specifically, I'm the captain of the North Coastal Station. What I know is North Coast Station. That's my piece of the pie. That's what I focus on. And that really is the most important thing to me. But I thought that I could highlight some things in the community concerns document that people emailed questions, or I've chatted with people through various times, and they have concerns, or they just simply don't know. And that's okay, because we do a lot of different things that people don't know about. And this is an opportunity for you to kind of ask those questions and find out what we do or what we don't do, you know, what we can do better or what we're not doing so well in. So anyway, after the community concerns, and then I'll go into a very short PowerPoint presentation, which is about 5 or 6 slides. I try not to keep it very long, and just kind of hit what are some of the top 2 or 3 top concerns for residents here in Encinitas. So I'll do that, and then from there I will I put together all the emailed questions, kind of summarize them, and I'll try to hit on those, or I will hit on those, and then from there we'll go into the open comment question session of it. So that's what we're doing tonight. That's how it's going to flow. I do think that you'll get a lot out of this, and I'm really looking forward to it. I really love talking to the community. I think that's one of my strengths, really being direct with people. I do have a lot of residents who come see me in the office. We have good conversations. Sometimes they leave there with not the answer they wanted, but I do try to be honest with them. So what is this form? What is this form, or what is not this form? So what's it about? So what it's not about is really what I want to hit on first. So this community forum is not, and I stress, is not about race relations, funding the police, systemic bias, politics. I'm not going to talk about what goes on at some other agency or what happens in another state. Folks, I don't know anything about that. Okay, I can't talk about things that I don't know. I won't make up answers. So I'm not going to talk about things which are not relevant to North Coastal. Now, I may hit on a few things. I may highlight some things, but really, as far as all those other topics, I'm not going to address them. I don't think they're proper for this forum. This is not what this forum is for. This forum is for this city and how I, as your captain, can make it better and safer and help try to resolve some of the issues here. That's what this is about. So I'm sorry, some of you might be disappointed by that, but again, this is not the forum for that, and I will stay away from those sort of topics. So what is it about? This is about Encinitas. This is about 2 years of being here and seeing some of the issues that I've had to deal with, how we've resolved them, what we've done or what we can do to try to make this place as safe as possible. This is about the problems. This is about your concerns. This is about all those things. I know that there are some issues here, just like with any city. And the only way, or the best way I see it, is having the community tell me what those are. And that's the best way that we can work together as a team, because that's really what it's about. I mean, my deputies can go out there and make arrests and contact people and things like that. But really, when it comes down to it, we can't do this without the community. It just doesn't work as well. We have to work together as a team. Now, I know some of you may have some feelings about law enforcement officers that make you uncomfortable, or that you have issues with, or you've had issues in the past with. But honestly, when it comes down to it, the real success of this community is that it's the way we work together. We can't do it all. The community can't do it all, but we can do it as a team together. And I really do mean that. And that's really part of what this forum is about. what are the things that we're going to do in this forum? So the first thing is, I think it's really important that you get to know who I am. I mean, I set the standard. I really do. The bar is where I set it, and then my deputies follow that. And so if you really understand who I am and what I'm about, I think you'll have a lot more confidence in the of the way we're doing things. And I always say that attitude really reflects leadership. And I think at the end of the day, you'll see where my attitude is. You'll know a lot more about me, because a lot of you have made comments about me, some positive, some negative. And I see those, and I just go, that person obviously doesn't know anything about me. They don't know my integrity. They don't know how I conduct business. They don't know where I set the bar. But they're quick to criticize. They're very quick to criticize, and I'm okay with that part too. But I think that at the end of the day, when you find out who I am and what I'm about, I think you'll have a lot more confidence in the way I do business. And that's one part of this. And then the other part is the dialogue, the conversation. I really think we've lost the art of that. We've lost the art of working together as a team. One side against the other is not productive. It's just not productive. And I see that all the time. I'll drive around and I'll see two groups arguing. You get more done when you listen and you communicate. You get a lot more done. But when you're constantly yelling at each other or pointing the finger at each other, nothing get accomplished on either side. And part of this is, I need you to help me just like I can help you. And part of it is listening, me listening, you listening, and then us kind of finding that middle ground where we can make this place better. That's the only way, folks. I just can't do it any other way. I just can't. So I want to talk about me first. And I don't mean that in a kind of a bragging way. I want to talk about me in the sense of, here's who I am, so you know where I set the bar. First of all, I don't know any other way to have a conversation except being honest. If you're looking for something else in this, you're not going to get it. I only know how to be honest. Again, that's why people sometimes don't appreciate what I've said, because I'm very honest with them. I'm very direct, but that's the only way that I know how to talk to people. So that's what you're going to get out of me. Our department has 7 core values, and of those core values, the most important one to me is integrity. And it really is about doing the right thing every single time. And that's what I do. And anyone who's ever worked for me, they understand that. I don't make exceptions. I don't treat anyone any different. I don't make exceptions, and I set the bar very high. And I expect the same thing for my deputies to do exactly the same thing. And if they don't, they're held accountable. Now, keep in mind, the success of this place is not about me. It is about the people that work here. The people here are wonderful. The deputies here are probably the best I've ever seen. And I don't say that lightly. I've been in this department 22 years, and I have such a great team. I'm just so thrilled that my team is just so awesome. And I'm not just saying that. You've got really good people here. Those deputies out there, they work really hard for you. I'm telling you right now, they work really hard. There's a reason why this place is so safe. There's a reason why we're always coming down. There's a reason why we've dropped crime in the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. It's not because of Herb Tapp. It's because of those deputies that you see driving around in those cars every day. They're the ones that really need to be thanked. And I do thank them, and I do appreciate them. And that's what I want to say about that. It's really about them. But a captain has to set the bar, high. And I do set the bar high. Again, my folks know that. Anyone who's ever worked for me knows that. It's not about a person's socioeconomic status. It's not about the color of their skin. It's not a matter of how they look or how they dress. I don't care about any of those. What I care about is that we enforce the laws fairly, without bias, and we do it the right way, and we write the right reports. And when we're asked about something, we speak the truth. And that's what you're going to get out of me, and that's what you're going to get out of my folks. Now, again, I don't speak for the department in a way that I represent the department. I work for Sheriff Gore. He sets the bar high. I know because I work for the guy directly. I know he sets the bar high, and I set the bar high also. So for those of you, for you critics out there who think that somehow deputies are that the bar is low and that they're behaving in a way that is warranted or accepted, it's just not. Okay, it's never, never, never okay for that. So that's me in a nutshell. So that's some of the ground rules, some of the ground rules is that this is not a debate. I'm not going to debate with people. A lot of people have opinions, and that's okay. That's okay. You can have an opinion. You could have a political belief, ideology. You can think a certain way. That's okay. But I'm not going to debate with you about that. What I am going to do is be honest with you. I'm going to tell you the truth. If we do it, if it's something is done where we failed or we've operated outside policy, then we have, and I am totally accountable for every single person at my station, every single one. So when they behave badly, that reflects on me. But I understand that, and I accept that as captain of this station. So this is not a debate. It's okay to have an opinion about something. I'm fine. You make whatever comments you want to. I'll try to answer them. But remember, you're going to get honesty from me. You get nothing else. You get honesty, nothing else, and that's what I'm going to do. So let's begin. So I've been on the department 22 years, and I've had a lot of different assignments. I've worked the regular patrol, investigations. I've worked in internal affairs. I've worked traffic. I've worked at our communications center. I mean, I've just had a variety of assignments. And it's really developed me. It's really given me a solid platform to be where I am, which is captain of this station. But one of the most important jobs that I had as a captain was being assigned to Sheriff Corps. Now, Sheriff Corps takes a lot of criticism. He takes a lot, but working with him, I realized that I had made the right decision. I had made the right decision to join the Sheriff's Department, and I had made the right decision to be a cop. I am very proud of what I've done, and working for him for 9 months, side by side, traveling with him, hearing him talk and seeing what he was really about, really solidified what I do. And so that position of working alongside of him really made me realize that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing the job that I'm supposed to do. He showed me that here's where you set it. You take care of your people, you take care of your community, you don't make exceptions. He set that bar, I follow it. And so what I'm telling you, just as a side note, that you've got good leadership in this department. You really do. And it trickles down. It trickles down because the bar starts high, and for me, it stays high. And I only speak for myself. Okay, so that's who I am. That's a little bit about my career. Now let's start with the community concerns. Can you pull up the document? Because I want to talk about the department in a very kind of general way. That first page. With the ethnicity breakdown. So a lot of people wonder about, okay, what is the sheriff's makeup as far as our community? Now remember, we service about 1 million people in this community. That's 9 contract cities and our unincorporated area. And what you're looking at when it's that ethnicity breakdown is basically the community environment and the makeup, the ethnicity makeup for the department. As you can see, it balances out pretty good. We're very representative of our community. Now, you can find differences in what you have in Encinitas, or what you have in Poway, or what you have in San Marcos. Sure, you can always find differences, but our department makes a really good effort to try to be as diverse as we can to represent our department. And even at my station, I feel that we are very diverse. as far as how we represent ourselves. But overall, that is just really a reflection of the fact that we do represent this community. Those numbers right there. Okay, can you move forward to training, de-escalation? Right. Keep going. Yeah. So de-escalation training. Okay. So this is a hot topic. A lot of people wonder whether we get de-escalation training, how much we get, how thorough is it? So let me just say that since I've been on the department, I first got de-escalation training when I was in the academy. That's where it starts, and it's still there. So as we grow up in the department, we have constantly gotten de-escalation training. We have to go to this sort of training every year, or every other year, I should say. And every other year, it's incorporated into our required training. So every deputy on this department has this sort of stuff. Now, we never formalized it though. We did the training, but we never called it de-escalation training. And I only bring this up because a lot of people say, your cops need to learn to have more de-escalation training. So what we did finally in 2018 is that we kind of formalized it. We created a program based off, I believe we monitored it was LAPD? Yeah, LAPD's style. And we took a lot of their things and put it into our program. We sort of formalized it and called it de-escalation training. But don't think that for 1 minute we were never training to de-escalate. We always have been. We just never formalized it. So for those of you who wonder if we have that sort of training, we do. We do it constantly. We do it at briefing training. We do it as required training. We have training bulletins. We do a lot of that. Trust me, folks, we do a lot of de-escalation training. So if you have concerns of whether or not we do or we don't do enough, we do a lot. Can you move up just a little bit more? I'm sorry. Yeah, PERT. So the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team. Now, there are a lot of people out there who are in some emotional crises or they're mentally ill. And we are typically the first ones to get exposed to that. In other words, we get called because someone is suicidal or someone is mentally ill or whatever their issue is. So over several years, we've had the training, but over several years, we realized that we were getting more and more calls regarding that, and that we needed to better prepare and train our deputies on how to deal with that. So what was created, or what we did was we created these teams, and we call them PERT teams. And what it is, it's a psychiatric nurse and a deputy who go to these calls, these what we call 5150 calls. They go to these calls versus the deputy just going, so that you have someone there who is trained to evaluate and assess people who are mentally ill or under some sort of emotional mental crises. At North Coastal, and let's get back to North Coastal, I have 2 teams of PERT deputies. And over in 2019, they probably went to what we call the 5150 calls. They probably went to about 40% of those. And the reason why it's 40% is because they don't work 24/7. They work a schedule, and then if they're not available, we'll call out into the county and see if someone else is available. So we're always trying to get a nurse there, except that they're not 24/7, but they are there a lot, and they do go through a large percentage of our psychiatric calls, because we feel that that's really our first line. Get somebody there who's an expert. And I know that this has been an issue that people have talked about, but I just want you to know that we do have that. we have 2 teams of them, and they do go to a lot of different calls. And on the other hand, we also train our deputies. Our deputies get 24 hours of this, what we call PERT training, and that is recognizing the signs, knowing how to react, when you see someone who may be on the spectrum, what to recognize, signs like that, someone who's under duress, all those sort of things. Our folks do get a lot of training. So I don't want you to think that they don't, because we do. Not only do we do that, but as you can see, we do 8 hours of crisis response training. And I know that some people are like, well, that 8 hours is not a lot. You know, keep in mind, we have a lot of people. We do a lot of different training. But the fact is that we do the 24 hours and we do the 8 hours, and then we do updates. We do try to keep our folks well versed on how to respond to them. It's something we acknowledge. It's something that we want our deputies to not, to be able to recognize, so that they can minimize any force that needs to be used. So we do a lot of that. Body-worn cameras, everyone knows we have body-worn cameras now. We're required to turn them on. Just so we're clear, we're required to turn them on once we contact the public, and we do. There are body-worn, now, some people say like, well, we want copies of it, or we want to see the body-worn camera. And in some situations, we do release that. That's not really my call. That comes from our headquarters. That's their call on when they release body-worn cameras. There are different situations where we can release them and when we can't. Each incident is different. So when you ask for that sort of stuff, say in a use of force where there's a shooting, our command staff will make that determination on whether or not we release that based on some legal things. It can be very complicated. So, but we do have body-worn cameras. Every time we contact someone in public, we do turn them on. Our policy mandates it, and we've had body-worn cameras, I think, for at least 2 years or so. So that's where we are on that. And then, can you go to use course? Oh, it's page 5. You go to page 5. It's right after. Yeah, it's right there.
It's actually 7.
No. Oh, is it 7? I have 5 on mine. Okay. So in this use of force, I think the city attached this community concerns document so everyone was able to review it. There are numbers right there, folks. There's no fudging them. This is what they are. These are our use of force numbers. As you can see, 2017, we had a high amount, 11. You know, 1 is too many, but that's what we had. But if you look and see, you can see that we've drastically reduced our lethal force with 5 in 2018 and 1 in 2019. You know, like I said, 1 is too many, but the fact is that we are trying every way possible to keep that number at 0. And through training and through reinforcement with the deputies, hopefully we can do that. But right now, that's where we are. That's our use of force. Those are our numbers on the department. I just wanted to mention that because there were some questions about that. And then let's go to oversight. Yeah, stop right there. Okay, so the reason I want to bring up oversight is because there's a lot of internal oversight within our department. You've got different groups who are looking at different things. And let's start with our Critical Incident Review Board, which is made up of 4 commanders. And they look at some of our internal things, our civil exposure. I mean, they review training and other things, and they really make a lot of recommendations on how we can improve. They are an independent group. Yes, I know they're all part of the sheriff's department, but they're an independent group that decides amongst themselves where we can, what we need to do, where we need to go forward, how we need to train, what we need to look at again, because obviously there's some issues with that. So you've got curves. So keep going. More oversight, our Division of Inspectional Services. Again, they look at internal processes also. I just had them out at my, down a little bit, scroll down. their Division of a Division of Inspectional Service. They also look at a lot of our internal process. They're an independent group. They have their own opinion. They'll come out to the station. I just had them out at mine to look at some stuff. They write a report and regarding whatever they're there for as far as audit, and they write a report, and they have corrections, things that you should be doing or shouldn't do, and then you go and you fix those things. That's another one. We have the internal affairs. I worked in internal affairs myself. I was assigned there, and I can tell you that majority of our internal affairs investigations are generated by us, not by the public. We self-police ourselves. I know people don't believe that, but we really do. I've had more than enough cases as an internal affairs investigator. Like I said, when I started off, I talked about our sheriff. You know, our sheriff has high standards. We hold our people accountable. And our internal affairs, as you can see, we've had a few cases. And that's really part of how we self-police ourselves. Again, most of those are generated internally, not by the public, but internally. I know you see a lot of high profile ones out there, but most of our cases are because our employees doing things outside of policy that maybe they shouldn't do, or another employee saying that employee did something, and we will investigate ourselves. And there's discipline on a lot of these. There's discipline. So that's just another oversight group that we have. I know that I know what it's like because I myself worked in internal affairs. Then we've got the CLERB, which is the Citizens Law Enforcement Board. Go down just a little. Yeah, there it is. Citizen Law Enforcement Board, and those are all civilians who handle complaints. So if a citizen has a complaint, these folks can investigate. They'll write a report. They send it to the sheriff. That's our citizen oversight. And I know it's been brought up that there needs to be a civilian oversight board. We have that already. We've had CLERB for a long time. I've spoken at CLERB. I've interviewed at CLERB. They take their job very seriously, and they're fair. They're fair. They look at it. They look at every single thing. And if it's a legitimate complaint, they will say that this is a legitimate complaint. Okay, so that's our civilian oversight. They have nothing to do with the department, but you as a citizen can file a complaint with CLERB, and they have all the investigative powers that they need. And that's all I want to say about the community concerns document. Nadia, was there anything that you wanted to add to that? So I really wanted to just highlight that stuff. I'm sure some of you may have some questions about it. I don't know if I can answer those questions because again, my knowledge is specifically Encinitas, but if I can, I will. And then I want to narrow this down to the city of Encinitas. Can you pull up my PowerPoint? Okay. Yeah, right there. So I see pretty much most of the same complaints all the time in different forms, in different ways, but most people have some of the same issues. The first is they're concerned about crime. They all are. I mean, everyone wants to live in a safe community. Do you blame them? I don't. That's my job, to try and make this community as safe as possible. Whatever it takes, try to make this community as safe as possible. I work for you. I work for the residents. I don't work for anyone else. I work for the community of Encinitas, and that's where my focus has to be. And it is. I put 100% into trying to do that. I put 100% in trying to serve this community and help make it the safest one in the county. And we have been. We have been the safest one in the county. And we've seen a significant drop in crime in the city. So it is a great place to live, and it is a very safe community. Now, it is not without crime. Don't get me wrong. It is not without crime. And you still need to take those kind of matters and be cautious when you're out there. But for the most part, you live in a relatively safe community. So let's go to the first slide. Let's talk about that crime. Okay, so let's look at this chart. Now this is 2018 versus 2019. The reason why I didn't, okay, now keep in mind, I brought up that I've been here since 2018. So I didn't want to go back to 2017 or 15 or 10 years back. What I want to talk about, what I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for 2018, 2019, and 2020. And that's all I'm going to talk about for the most part. So let's look at this chart here. Crimes against society. As you can see, the black was 2018. The green is 2019. What you saw there was a decrease of crime, about 12.6%. Now, what is crimes against society? I'll give you kind of an idea of what kind of crimes we're dealing with. Drug and narcotic offenses, weapons violations, gambling stuff, things like that. But that's what you're going to get in crimes against society. So there was a drop there from 18 to 19. We saw a drop there. Now, crimes against property, which is the second graph in the middle, that was a 25.8% drop. So between 2018 and 2019, that's how much your crimes against property dropped. Now, what are crimes against property? So that's your burglary, vandalism, that's your fraud, your petty thefts, or your larcenies, your robberies, theft from vehicles, vehicle thefts, all those sort of crimes occur in crimes against property. We saw a significant drop in crimes against property from 2018 to 2019. And then your crimes against persons. That was not a drop, that was a 2.7% increase. What are your crimes against persons? Those are your assaults, those are your homicides, kidnapping, those are your any sex offenses, those fall under that. So that stayed relatively same with a slight increase from 2018 to 2019. So that's the comparison there. Now let's go to the next slide. So I think let's look at the mid-year crime rate, and I believe that might be on your left side of your screen. So SANDAG, which is kind of the official reporting for this area, Encinitas in 2019, I'll give you a snapshot. So Encinitas in 2019, the mid-year report, and see the highlighted portion there, Encinitas was ranked #1 as the safest city in the county. Now there are 18 cities in this county, 18. Encinitas came in #1 at mid-year, which is June. So from January to June, Encinitas ranked #1 as the safest city in the county. They were at a crime rate of 10.16, which is low. Now, this doesn't include, I know you see unincorporated in there. I'm not talking about unincorporated. I'm talking about actual incorporated cities, which are 18. Encinitas came in #1, safest city. And then at the end of 2019, look over to your right. If you can see where Encinitas is, we had a crime rate of 10.9. The only city that was safer than Encinitas was Poway, and they were at 10.75. So it's a very small difference, but the fact is these two graphs are an indication of how safe this city is. We are. It's a good place to live. We've had a significant crime drop, and looking at statistically for the county of San Diego, this is where you rank as a city. You were #1 mid-year, and you were #2 come the end of 2019. Now we're still in 2020, so I don't know what those numbers are going to be. I do have something, a chart that you can look at for that, but that's where you were in 2019. Just so you kind of get an idea of what kind of community you live in. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what I did was I just did a comparison here. Okay, so if you look on the left, I've got 18, 19, and 20. Again, I've only got half of 20. And if you look at the chart, 18 is black, 19 is green. That's what, those were the overall crimes against persons. And then 20 is where we are now. And as you can see, you're getting a decline in the summer. Part of that maybe is because of the pandemic, I don't know, but typically this area gets a spike in crime because of, you know, the fair, the races, those sort of things. We had a whole influx of folks coming to our beaches during the summer, but typically we see a rise during the summer. That's where we are right now. And then if you look on the left, those are the crimes against property. Remember, those are your larcenies and your vehicle thefts and things like that. And as you can see, the line, the graph is 28 for 2018 is black. You see the green one was 2019, and the blue one is where we are now, kind of in between 18 and 19 for crimes against property. That's where we stand as of right now. Again, at the end of 2020, we'll be able to give you a better idea whether crime dropped, stayed the same, or went up. Okay, next one. Now, hotspots. Where's the hotspot? Well, most of you could probably guess. The hotspot is going to be, you know, where the Home Depot is, and the Target, and the Walmart, all over there. That's where the hotspot is for the city of Encinitas. That is where the top 5 crimes happen. Now, do we spend a lot of time over there? We absolutely do. Do we do a lot of operations there? Yes, we do. I'll just leave it at that. We spend a lot of time over there. You have to trust me on that one. But what we see over there is shoplifting, the top 5 crimes: shoplifting, theft from vehicles, commercial robbery, commercial burglary, and aggravated assaults. Those are the top 5 crimes here in the city. And the area that we have the most problems is with shoplifting. So it's no wonder, because you have a Walmart over there, you have all your big box stores, you have a lot of people who like to shoplift. And that's probably explains why. And the theft from vehicles. Now, this city does have a huge issue with people leaving their cars unlocked. I would encourage you to lock your cars. You can prevent a lot of this. Do not leave your valuables in their car. People leave their purses, their wallets, they leave their laptops, they leave their valuables just right there. And a lot of you folks will say, well, I just ran in for a minute. But remember, there are people out there who are looking for this, crimes of opportunity. They are looking for this. So I would encourage you, lock it up, put it in your trunk, do something, but do not leave it visible. And then down at the bottom of that slide, total calls for service for the entire city of 2019, we went to over 18,000 calls, just so you know, in the city of Encinitas last year. And then the last slide, traffic. Traffic is probably my number one thing that I get emails about. I don't know where to start with traffic, except to give you the 5 hotspots for vehicle collisions. The first one is 11 Haim and Town Center Drive. The second one is Lucadia and North El Camino Real. And the other ones you can see. Those are our top areas where we get most of our vehicle collision. And I marked them out there on the map there. And then for 2019, you can see at the top the total number of non-injury collisions. We had 153. Number of collisions with injury, we had 122. Bicycle related accidents, we had 23 of those. There's a lot of people who ride bikes in this town. 23 is more than I want, but compared to the number of people who ride in this town, you know, I'm glad it's not more. You know, we have to share the road. The road belongs to the bikes and the cars, and I constantly get this back and forth complaining. The bikes, the people who ride the bikes complain about the cars, and vice versa. But the road belongs to both of you. And then some people wonder, well, are you writing cites out there? Well, last year we wrote 5,159 cites. Those are moving violations. We write a lot of moving violations. Now, what can I say about traffic? We can't be everywhere. I get a lot of questions about why can't you come to my street and do enforcement? Typically, when you guys send me emails, I will have traffic deputies over there. They may not be there that day, but what I do is I get the email, I say, okay, I send it to my traffic sergeant. I say, have some units go out there and do some enforcement. They do enforcement, but we really have to look at it. We only have so many resources. A lot of you want traffic deputies on your street, you want enforcement, and they can only do so much. I have to tell you that the city has invested in a lot of traffic. The city has invested in a lot of resources, and you have more traffic deputies than any of our other contract cities because the city wants that enforcement. So they are out there every single day. There are a lot of hot spots out there. They do those, but we also are flexible enough so that you have a complaint about your street, they'll come over there and do enforcement. Now, they're not going to be out there every day. A lot of people want to see a unit there every day, and we simply don't have those kind of resources. But I can and do respond to your complaints. I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring them. I see them. I know you have an issue with speeding, or you say you have an issue because I'm not out there, but I believe you. If you say they're speeding, and I try to get either a motor or a car out there to do some sort of enforcement to remind people to slow down. Now, what happens? We go out there, we do write tickets. We have a zero tolerance for it. We don't typically give warnings, just so you folks know. And then we leave, and the next thing you know, they go right back to speeding again. That's kind of how it is. That's how it is. But again, we'll continue to fight that battle. I'll continue to respond to your emails. I'll continue to send people out there. And just because you don't see them doesn't mean that they haven't come out there to do enforcement. Because I'll get a complaint about no one's come out there, and then I'll speak to the traffic deputy. He's like, no, Captain, I was there for 3 hours at that stop sign writing citations. So we do respond. The city does forward me those to you when you send them to them. And we do go out there and we do enforcement. We may not do it that day, but we do go out there and do that. That's the end of my presentation. That's some of the main points that I wanted to hit. I know it was a lot, but I do want to get to the emailed questions. I got some emailed questions, and then I want to get to people being able to ask questions. So let's quickly hit the emailed questions, and I'll go through them. I sort of generalized them, and I think I covered everyone's concern. The first one is helicopter announcements. I get complaints about helicopter announcements all the time. We can't tell what they are saying. So I have a procedure in place where whenever we request a helicopter, and let's say we're looking for someone with dementia, which is typically why the helicopter is out there. We're looking for a lost child. We're looking for someone with dementia. Occasionally, we are looking for someone who's committed a crime, but for the most part, it's really lost kids, someone with dementia, that sort of thing. So I have in place where if we call a helicopter, and once we get out there, and we have certain procedures, once we get out there, we establish a perimeter, we get things set up, then my patrol sergeant is trained to use Nextdoor, put it out on Nextdoor what the helicopter is there for, so that we can notify. I know many of you use that in this community, so that's what I'm going to stick with. We try to put it out on Nextdoor. We don't immediately get it on there right away, because remember, when we get a call and someone's lost, we drop everything. Nothing else becomes more important unless there's a medical issue than a senior citizen who has walked away and can't be found. That is a very big deal for us. And so we drop everything. Every deputy I have, every person is out there looking for that person. And so once we get things set up and we get a nice search, and then the patrol sergeant puts it out via next door what the helicopter is saying. So don't expect that right away in the beginning because we're too busy at that moment. But with a few moments, it'll be out on next door. So that's how the helicopter announce goes. Volunteer patrols, times they operate. Right now, because of the pandemic, we don't have our volunteers. Normally we do. Hopefully they'll be back soon. I really miss them. They do a great service for this community as well as other communities. I don't know what we do without them, but they've been sadly missed. They do normally work 7 days a week. They work during the day shift. Occasionally, I'll have them, I have a night shift or what we call a B shift, but typically the volunteers work during the day, but they are not here right now. So we do have a volunteer force. Changes in sheriff staffing by city council, that was another question. City has not approached me about any changes in staffing. Right now, you have the same staff that we had last year. And again, the city has invested in being able to provide a good service for you. And we try to do that, but there has not been any, the city has not approached me about that, in case some of you wonder. Homeless outreach team. Yes, we do have a homeless outreach team. We've had a homeless outreach team since last year. I know a lot of you have questions about that. And remember, homelessness is not a law enforcement issue. We cannot arrest it away, okay? We have to work together as a team, and we do. We put together this team, the city, the county, we're working together as a team to try and deal with some of the issues that we have here. We have a social worker, we have a deputy who's not there for a law enforcement reason. He's just there to keep the team safe, to monitor. They're not there to try to arrest anyone. So we have the deputy, the social worker. We have the CRC folks there. And now lately we've had a nurse who's been part of this, who's been going out sometime with us to treat or monitor or offer medical assistance to those that might have some medical issue or test for the COVID-19. But that was going very well up until the pandemic. However, we've still gone out. Our deputy, we actually have 2 of them assigned to the team. Our deputies we're in contact with our social worker all the time. They've got new clients. We go out there. It's more of a how are we going to help you? How are we going to help you get from here to here? That's what the social workers do. That's what CRC does. So that's what we're doing. But the HOT team is very active right now. Enhanced enforcement with the bars. We did that. It was very successful last year. We haven't done it this year yet because, again, a lot of the bars are closed, so there's no need to do that right now. But I am in talks with the city, and if it does open up, hopefully we'll be able to get that going, but because it is very productive and it does help a lot. So, but I am in talks with the city about that, and we'll see how that goes. As far as uniforms, a lot of you asked about why we wear different uniforms. Our tan and green, this is our typical uniform that we wear. Sometimes we wear the black polo. That's kind of a more of an administrative uniform. We do a lot of community things in our black polos. You know, sometimes people are intimidated by this, and it's just a softer look for us. It's a more relaxed look for us, and so we wear that black polo. And then some of you talked about well, why do you wear that green tack vest? And that's our tack vest. We do that a lot when we're going to search warrants or we're going down in dry brush and things like that. We'll normally wear our tack vest because it holds a lot of our equipment that we normally can't get in our pants pockets. As far as deputy complaints, there's a ton of ways to file. If you have an issue with a deputy, I would say you can always just ask for the sergeant. Just say, I want to speak to your supervisor. By policy, they are required to call the supervisor, and they should call the supervisor, and the supervisor should come out. You can request that they call you. Let's say you don't want to wait there, you want to go home, you want to call from supervisor. Supervisor will call you. So that's another way that you can generate a complaint. We always have our internal affairs service that you can call, or you can just come into the station. But if you think that you have a complaint about one of us, please, I encourage you, either call the supervisor, because it could just be resolved that way. Maybe there's a misunderstanding, maybe there isn't, but do not hesitate. Call the supervisor, come to the station, call internal affairs. There's lots of ways to generate a complaint. As far as parking of recreational vehicles, I know some of you have issues with that. You know, according to the code, recreation vehicles can be parked on the public highway. They just can't be parked between 10 o'clock and I believe 6 in the morning. Now, there are restrictions in size, particularly down in certain areas of the city, I think down by Swami's and some other places where they restrict the size or the length greater than 25 feet. But I know that some of you have issues with people parking their RVs on the street. But again, if they meet the requirement, they meet the requirement. There's not a lot we can do about that. Private parties. Now, we've gotten calls and complaints about people having private parties, and in particular, that they are violating the government code right now, the governor's order. No parties, basically, you know, no gatherings, I should say. Now, I want you to be clear on how the law works. So some of you will call and say, hey, there's a party at this house. Do we respond? Of course we respond. We respond to every call. They are violating the orders. There's 15 teenagers in the backyard and they're having a party. So we go there, we show up and we knock on the door. We knock on the door and they don't open it. We knock on the door and they don't open it. Folks, we can't go in. We have no authority to just go in there. There are only certain ways that we can actually enter a residence. So it really limits. We are limited by what the law says we can and can't do. I understand there's a party in the backyard, but if they don't let us in, there's not a lot we can do about that. I know it's a difficult thing to understand, but we have certain rules, we have certain restrictions. There are things that we don't just get carte blanche to walk into your house. Okay, that is the most private area you can have. And there are ways to get into your house. But when there's a party like that, we just can't go in there. It's that simple. There are other things that the city can do, depending on what's going on there. But we have to really be cautious and make sure that we are remaining within the four walls of the law. Bicyclists, that was it, and this is the last one, bicyclists. I got some questions about bicyclists and what they can and can't do. Bicyclists have to follow the rules of the road just like bikes. They're not exempt. Unfortunately, I have seen a lot of bikes who will roll through stop signs, who will be in packs, stop, block traffic, and then continue on. They can't do that. Now, that doesn't mean that all bicyclists are like that way, but bicyclists are following the same rules. They can be cited for the same things that we cite cars for, which is running stop signs, running red lights, a lot of other different things. So yes, we do that. We do enforce, we do write bicyclist tickets on occasion. So yeah, they have to follow the same rules of the road that we have to. So those were the emailed questions. I know I went through those fairly quickly. There weren't that many of them. I expected more, but there weren't that many of them. That's all I have to say. I'm done and ready for comments, questions. So go right ahead.
Okay, so thank you very much, Captain Taft. We appreciate that. We have our senior management analyst, Pat Pyatt. What we'll be doing is we will be calling 3 participants at a time. We're going to take folks in the order in which they registered. So those folks that registered first, we're going to call those folks first. Again, as a reminder, you will not be on video, but it will be audio chat, but it will not be video. We will have 2 minutes up for folks to either ask a question or comment. Pat Hyatt will call 3 up at a time and then do it in specific order. First, second, and third, and we'll continue to go through that. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, Captain Taft, for the presentation, and we'll start with the question and comments.
Thank you, Jennifer. So the first 3 names are Lisa Schaefer, Carlos Lizarraga, Ralph Cheney. And Lisa Schaefer, it's your turn for 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I thank you, Captain Taft. It's an interesting presentation. I put my question in the Q&A box too. Can you clarify who has jurisdiction on public beaches, especially regarding face coverings and social distancing? And we just saw in the news there was this big worship gathering in Cardiff on the beach Sunday. And who could have enforced mask rules or told those people they weren't allowed to gather that many people that close together? Or I've seen reports at Stone Steps and other beach locations where there are clusters of people less than 6 feet apart and not wearing face coverings. What's your role in that, and how do you respond to those situations that are endangering public safety?
Well, we do have authority to enforce on the beaches as well as the lifeguards. It's not that we won't enforce. First of all, we've issued more citations for violation of the government code 8665 than any other city in this county. We've doubled what any other place has done. So it's not a matter of whether we'll enforce or not enforce. We do enforce. It's a matter of us, of really a balance of how do we balance enforcement and education together. And it's really, we only have so many resources. There are people out there who don't wear their masks. Now, the rule is, you know, you're not required to wear the mask all the time, but if you're going to come within a certain distance of a person, you're supposed to have the mask on. But there are people who violate that all the time. We understand that. Now, keep in mind, this is a misdemeanor. So we have to see this happening, which is part of the difficulty in enforcing it. But we have enforced, we do enforce, we've written citations, we've written more than anybody else in the entire county. And our folks are not afraid to enforce. Now, as far as this gathering, have you noticed that there's protests up and down the state? And the way we've managed those has been more of trying to get peaceful protests, trying to maintain the peace with these protests. Now, the protests with the church group on Sunday occurred on state property at the state beach. So the state, if they wanted to, could have enforced that. Now, there's a fine line in how we do enforcement. Some people want us to go in there with our tack vests on, with just a line and say, this is an all lawful assembly, you have to leave here. They want us to go in there and do whatever it takes to get them out of there. I don't think that's a reasonable way to approach this. Some people don't want us to do anything about it because it's a violation of their constitutional rights. So here we are, law enforcement officers, kind of stuck in the middle. We have an obligation to enforce laws, yet we have an obligation to also support and enforce a person's constitutional right. We have to find a middle ground here. And that's a very, very challenging and difficult thing for us to do. Where we go with this, I don't know. I really don't. I wish I had an answer for you, but it's very challenging because where one protest is okay, another one isn't. We can't discriminate. We can't be biased in that way. If we allow all these other protests to go on, but we say this one can't happen. Take, for example, we had a very peaceful group out at Cardiff Coop for a whole week. That's several people. Sure, a lot of them had on masks, but they weren't social distancing. Some didn't have on masks. Were we supposed to take the same action with them as we take against this group over here? That seemed to be okay for most people. Some of the things that we've had in other areas of our county seem to be okay. So we can't pick and choose which protests we will allow or not allow. What we can do is try and work with people. Now, have we cited organizers? Yes, we have cited organizers of protests. Have we gone in and just cited every people in the crowd? No, we haven't done that, but we have focused on telling organizers you can't do this, and we've cited them for it. We're not opposed to that, but again, our thing is we're trying to balance people's right of free speech, being able to protest, versus what the governor's order is. And it's a difficult position that law enforcement is put in. So part of it is we work with people. We try to, because we don't want the violence. We want, if it's going to happen, we want it to be peaceful. But again, we can't pick and choose which protests are okay and which ones are not. Is a beach protest okay, but the Cardiff protest isn't, or vice versa? Is a church protest not okay, but this one is? I mean, it's just a difficult position for law enforcement to be in. But again, we have cited organizers. We do tell them that we don't give permits for this. And we just take each one separately and try and work within the confines of what is reasonable enforcement. And it's a difficult spot to be in.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Carlos Lizarraga. Carlos, are you there? Okay, we have Ralph Cheney.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good, very good. I'm so glad to be here. I'm glad this is happening. I'm a member of Encinitas for Equality, and I'm on a subcommittee where we're reimagining law enforcement here in Encinitas. In your terms, how can we make it even better? We find that people are interested in community policing and more of a partnership. And to that end, I'm very interested in developing a city-based review board here in Encinitas. I wanted to just say that the value is, of course, in two directions. One is that the city community members can more easily and confidently know that their complaints and questions, often it's questions, are voiced in a very real way to the police, to the sheriffs. And then conversely, in talking with you and in figuring some of these issues out, the community members can learn how things really work and what the balance is between the sheriffs and the community. So I wanted to, well, I'm interested in what you suggest as a way for us to do that most effectively so that it can happen here in Encinitas.
Well, let's see. Our department already has a oversight, civilian oversight. Having a individual city-based review board, I don't know if that would happen. But with that said, I think where you start with that is, first of all, I meet with your group, and I can meet with your group on a regular basis. You can have direct access to me to express your problems, or not problems, but your concerns. And we can meet on a regular basis. If it's once a quarter, or however often we decide, I'm more than open to that. I think you'll find that I am amenable to anything that helps this community. And if you have good ideas, that's great. I really am. I do really want to hear that. But I think that we start with me, because I'm in charge, and I meet with your group on a regular basis. We can schedule it out on the calendar, and go over things that concern you, or things or positive things you've seen. But I think that's where we start, and I'd be more than happy to do that.
Well, that's really great news, because we're it's kind of, we're tapping the community in ways that you may not, well, probably aren't able to. So
Right.
we'll have like great ideas. So we'll be able to get together and figure something good out.
I would, okay. I would say, yeah, definitely reach out, and we will schedule something, and I'll meet with the group, and we could start from there. And I think you're right. You see things that I don't. And unless we work together to make this better, we're both not going to succeed at it. And so that's really how you do it. I listen to what you have to say, and vice versa. And we really work together to try to make it better here.
Great.
Thank you, Ralph.
Okay, the next three participants are David Kennan, Kelly McCormick, and Jim Farley. David Kennan, it's your turn. David, are you there? You're on mute. Okay, Kelly McCormick, you're up.
Hi, this is Kelly McCormick, and I just want to thank you, Captain Taft, and the great deputies in Encinitas for all the work you do on our behalf. It's much appreciated. And I was going to ask about the alcohol situation downtown. I know obviously with COVID, it's different. However, the bars are still serving on the sidewalks and things like that, but I know it's much less than it was in the past. So I was just going to ask about that, which you already addressed, and basically to find out if you're able to do decoy operations involving some of the marijuana deliveries are happening to underage people who are ordering, and also with alcohol, and having alcohol delivered to their residences without having their IDs checked.
I don't know about the marijuana one. That's a new one. I've never had that question before, but that's actually a pretty good idea. We have a team that works with ABC, and they have a grant where they do decoy operations for alcohol. So they do that. I just don't. I don't think we do any marijuana stuff though. But we do. We don't. But our team of deputies on the department do decoys. They've done them here in Encinitas. Since I've been here, probably 3 times maybe. So they pick and choose throughout the county where they're doing them, but they do them. But that is an excellent idea. I don't think we do the marijuana ones, but I will bring it up because I know the person who runs the grant. And so I can mention it to her about that. And maybe they'll start doing that also. But I do like that idea. That's actually pretty good.
Thank you, Kelly.
Next up, we have Jim Farley. Jim, you're on mute if you're there. Okay, the next three people are Stephen Bartam, Julie Thunder, and Susan Turney. Stephen Bartam, you're up for 2 minutes.
He's not in.
Okay, then Julie Thunder, you're up for 2 minutes.
Hi, Captain Taft. Thank you for holding this. This has been really interesting to me. Can you hear me? Am I on? Oh, good.
Yes, Julie, I can hear you.
I have a specific question about an organization formed a few years ago, and I'm wondering if you know about it. It's called the Encinitas Hospitality Association. And it's something that was formed when there were a lot of complaints about the downtown bars. And that the EHA, Encinitas Hospitality Association, wanted to self-monitor the downtown bars, and they had a whole plan. I'm wondering if that plan still exists or if you know anything about it.
That was the Encinitas Hospitality Association?
Correct.
No, I don't. I have never heard of them. I do know that we were doing the, in 2019, we were doing the weekly teams out at downtown Encinitas, Friday, Saturday nights. But I didn't know that it was associated with any organization.
It was a program where the bars kind of, pardon me for being light about this, they promised to self-monitor goings on downtown and to make an effort to not allow anyone to get too intoxicated. And it came to mind to me when we had the situation several months ago where the man drove into the shelter bar.
Yeah.
So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm unaware of it. I really would remember it, Julie, but being 2 years here, I don't remember. I just know that we go out on Friday and Saturday nights and do a lot of bar checks, and it keeps people from getting too intoxicated. But I honestly, I've never heard of them. Okay,
thank you. I think it might have gone defunct, but I'd like to see it reestablished. I'll talk to you about it another time. Thanks so much.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Julie.
Next on the list, we have Susan Turney. You have 2 minutes, Susan.
Actually, I'm going to cede my time. I did not have a question logged. Thank you, though.
Okay, the next three on the list are Elena and John Thompson, Kevin McClave, and Alexander Riley. Ellen and John Thompson, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Don't see them in here.
Okay, Kevin McClave, you have the floor for 2 minutes. And Kevin, your microphone's on mute.
Sorry about that. How are we going?
There you go.
Captain Taft, thanks very much for hosting this forum. So at least two of our current council members, city council members, have publicly written or voiced support for an organization called It Can't Wait. And the ultimate goal of this organization, according to what I've read on their own website, is the complete abolition and full defunding of all police. So I personally find that a little bit disturbing coming from elected officials. But as such, I'm wondering which candidates the Deputy Sheriff Association will be endorsing in the November city election.
I don't think they've come out with an official endorsement. They typically do endorse candidates. I am a member of the Deputy Sheriff's Association, but the board selects who they want to enforce. or to support and endorse. I don't know if they've endorsed anyone yet here in the city. Or at least I'm unaware of that. Are you aware of something that I don't know? And I do think I've seen that It Can't Wait. I'm trying to find that now. Yeah, there it is. Okay, that's in this document. Yeah, why don't you speak to it?
Hi, Kevin. I'm Nadia with
I
the
can
Sheriff
post the,
Relations. In regards to the It Can't Wait campaign, thank you for bringing that up because in our community concerns document, we do have a page dedicated to where we stand in regards to that campaign effort. It's on page 12. You'll see in our notes that for the items that the campaign has mentioned that we do not fulfill, we actually do. There's the intent regarding the ban of chokehold or strangulations. While we did not ever perform chokehold or strangulations, the carotid restraint was a tool of use of force mechanism that has been abolished by the sheriff in regards to early in terms of the civil unrest efforts. And so the department no longer is implementing that as well as using that as a training method in our academies and continued professional training. The angle of duty to intervene, that is something that has been performed throughout our department as the captain has mentioned through our policies and procedures. It's just something that's been performed through training, but because of this dialogue that we are having with our community, it was brought to our attention that it wasn't actually transcribed in our policies and procedures, which the department publicly displays on our website at scsheriff.net. But because of this and our memorializing efforts that's in the process right now, the sheriff has implemented a policy directive for our department, and that is on our homepage of our website where it's called the In This Together section, you'll see a copy of that duty to intervene in terms of a directive, which is in the process right now to be memorialized in our policies. The last one, ban shooting at moving vehicles, that is one that they say we do not have implemented, but we do have policies and procedures governing that, and you'll see that expanded in the community concerns document as well as that in this section on the website.
okay, how about the questions of decriminalizing things like trespassing and drinking in public? How does the captain feel about those goals of the organization?
As far as what, I don't know if that's one of our goals of decriminalizing drinking in public. Where did you see that?
It's amongst the It Can't Wait goals is decriminalizing something such as trespassing, drinking in public would be two of them.
I don't know where that is. We typically don't get involved in those sort of issues. We enforce them or not enforce them, but we typically don't get involved in creating laws. So as far as decriminalizing, if it does get decriminalized, then we can enforce it. But right now, I can tell you that we enforce that one quite a lot, all the time. So, you know, and I'm definitely supportive of our deputies doing that. So, but I'm not sure where that is in our document as far as any support of that, because that's not typically what we do. We really don't get involved in laws and creating them.
No, I understand that. I'm just, and forgive me if I'm taking too much time, feel free to move on. But I was just wondering your personal opinion, decriminalizing trespassing, or decriminalizing drunk in public, would that be a good thing or a bad thing for a community?
Well, I think that anytime that we can remove people to a safer place because they are in a condition that makes it unsafe for them, I think that's a positive thing. It gives us one more tool to utilize where we can take those people who may be impaired off the streets. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. Whether you're driving drunk or drug driving, or whether you're just drinking in public, I think that's a really good tool for us to remove that person out of harm's way, both for their safety and ours. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a great tool for us.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Captain.
Okay.
Next, we have Alexander Riley. Alexander, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, Captain. Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you.
Oh, thanks for your time this evening. It's been great. We have been having a lot of, I'm over in Leucadia, and it seems to be, we kind of have an unofficial campground along the train tracks, a lot of RVs and vans parking. Has that kind of come under your gaze recently?
Yes, it has. Yes. Do you want me to respond to that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, okay.
What's the best, what is the residents can we do, and how can we help you out?
So it depends on whether or not they are committing a crime. So the issue is whether they're parked there in their camper and they're there overnight. Is that what your concern is? Tell me what your concerns are, and then I'll answer those questions.
Yes, sir. It seems like a lot of them are actually sort of camping out, and maybe they're moving down the coast, but you see the same vehicles and people kind of coming and going for several days.
Yeah, I would say that, it's really best to call us. Let us come out and check to make sure that any sort of behavior is legal. There's a lot of crime that goes on where you get a lot of people coming and going. And sometimes we can catch them in the act. And that doesn't mean that just because they're parked there and they have no other place to go, they're committing a crime. But it's best that you just call us and we'll come out. If you see any illegal activity, make sure you call us right away. But I think the best way to deal with that, if you're suspicious of behavior, or you have concerns, or you feel unsafe, I would say the best way to handle that is to call us. We'll come out. If we don't come out, make sure you get a hold of a supervisor. But we should be coming out every time you call us if you are concerned or you see suspicious behavior. Again, sometimes we go out to calls like this and the person's not doing anything but sitting in their car. But the only way to find that out is let us investigate it. That's what we get paid for. You are not bothering us whether you call 10 times a day or 1 time a day. It's part of our job. It's what we're supposed to do. And we will do it exactly that way. So call is the best way. Do not contact them. Do not say anything to them. You don't even have to tell the, we won't even tell, if we contact them, we won't mention that you were the one that called. If you want to keep it anonymous, you can. It doesn't matter. Call, say, I want to keep my name anonymous. I want to stay out of it. That's okay with us. We'll go, just describe what you see and we'll go over there. Again, we're here to serve you. If you have concerns, just call us. And I don't care how many times you call us, just call us and we'll go out there every single time when you have concerns.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, the next 3 up we have is Leah Bissonette, Robert Hempel, and Peter Cole. Leah, it's your turn for 2 minutes.
Leah and Robert are not in the meeting, so we'll go to Peter Cole.
Oh, we have, okay, thank you. Peter Cole, you're on mute.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
Peter, I can hear you.
Oh. I'm one of those senior volunteers that the captain was talking about earlier. I've been doing this for about 12 years.
Yes.
I encourage anybody that's over 50 to join us because it's a lot of fun. But I want to mention, first of all, I don't have a specific question, just some comments. I want to mention that we are volunteers. So if people get angry with us, it's unfair because we're trying to help out in the community and we do it for free. I also want to mention we work 5 days a week, but we do work nights and weekends if there's special call-outs. But I do have a specific question. I don't think it's a big secret that some of the elected officials in the city don't have the highest regard for the department. If there is a big issue, shouldn't they address it with the county supervisors? Because after all, the sheriff's department is a county department. That's my question.
Your question is whether if there's a big issue in the city, shouldn't they address it with the county, not the sheriff's department? I think it's more of what the issue is. If it's internal to what we do, I think they should address it and mention it or bring it to my attention, particularly if it involves the residents or their safety or concerns. Definitely they should bring it to me. Now, if it's something beyond that, beyond from a law enforcement stance, yeah, I don't really get involved in politics, Peter. So I stay out of that. I stay very neutral. My job is representing and providing services, law enforcement services for this community. So the other part of it, I don't have anything to do with. So I'm not sure what big issue you specifically are talking about, but if it's a law enforcement issue, as far as services provided, I should be focused on those. Now, if it's some sort of issue regarding you know, some of the things that are going around, like I believe you're talking about whether, you know, defunding or staffing or race relations, things like that. Again, that's something that they can take up, yeah, with maybe the sheriff board. But I guess I'm confused about what you're really trying to say. But you know, because there are issues that in the city where I deal directly with council, where I deal mostly with the city manager, who kind of is the bridge between me and council. So
I guess I should have said policy issues, and you have answered my question. By the way, a lot of us are very eager to come back to work.
I know you are, and I'm eager to have you back, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, the next three on the list are Michelle Van Houten, Marlon Taylor, and Ron Medek. And Michelle, it's your turn for 2 minutes.
Michelle is not in the meeting, so Marlon will be next.
Marlon, you have a turn for 2 minutes. Your microphone is muted.
All right, good evening. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. It's been a very enlightening conversation, and yeah, it's been good. It's good. So my question is what type of racial sensitivity training do your deputies undergo throughout the course of their careers?
You want to answer that one?
Hi, Marlon. In regards to the different trainings, you know, as we mentioned, they go through the academy. I don't have a copy of that community concerns document we can display, but on that page, let me see. Page 5, there's a breakdown of the various trainings and the hours associated with those respective categories. As it relates to like cultural awareness and bias, that is integrated in the academy, but we also implement that through training bulletins throughout their career with the department, coupled with learning management, like online virtual, because as you can imagine, we have 4,400 employees, so getting everybody in a classroom setting or a field trip type of environment is not always practical or conducive. So we do have that electronic platform for that. But we also, working with our community partners, you know, we really leverage a lot of outreach events in the sense where we have that mutually beneficial engagement, whether it's with our refugee communities, our immigrant communities, our Hispanic, Latino communities. But we also work a lot too with our LGBTQ community members. Last year we had a very eye-opening conversation with like our trans family support services, where we talked with our juvenile detectives and our school resource officers to shed light on our LGBTQ youth and the dynamics involved in the school environment. So we're very open throughout the year, not just in like a formal environment, but if there's opportunities that present themselves where different community groups, faith leaders, whether it's like a mosque or a synagogue or a Chabad, we do a lot of like multicultural events too. So again, going back to that face-to-face dynamic and just getting that in-person exposure and opportunity to really connect with our communities, that's where we get a lot of that substantive connection and learning moments. So I don't have anything to pinpoint, but you know, last year I think we had 1,400 to 1,700 outreach events, and a lot of those have to do with different nuances because of the different cross-cultural exposures.
All right, can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, bearing in mind the recent Black Lives Matter movement and calls for improving anti-bias and systemic racism in police forces, what are you guys doing to respond to that, specifically in the San Diego Sheriff's Department and locally in Encinitas?
Okay, I can't speak for the department. I can only speak for North Coastal. And here's what I can tell you. Well, first of all, I don't see an issue like that here in Encinitas. My philosophy and my standard and the way I do business is that everyone gets treated the same. I will accept nothing less than that. You know, I don't see where my folks are selectively enforcing laws upon any particular group. No one has ever complained about that I'm aware of. And if they did, that would be a huge issue for me. My folks understand where I stand on that, and I've never wavered from that. So a lot of that, we get like Nadia was saying, we get a lot of that training. But the fact is that none of that training will be any good if the people who lead, the managers, the supervisors, the head of the department, if they didn't set the standard and ensure people knew that this is how we do business. Everyone gets treated the same. The laws apply to everyone equally. Now, with that said, managing people is a difficult thing. You have multiple personalities. You have people who have different priorities. They've grown up in different areas. They've seen different things. I come from Oakland, okay? I grew up in a crime-filled, violent area in Oakland. But that part of that environment is what gave me the foundation to do what I do now. I've seen both sides of it, okay? So anyone who tells me that I don't understand, they don't know who I am. I've seen both sides of it growing up in Oakland. I know what it's like. So when people have a passion about certain things, about a movement or about the way they're being treated or have been treated, trust me, I understand. I've been on both sides. And I think that is the one thing that makes me unique and different is that I understand why people feel the way they do. Things weren't always easy for me. Things were difficult. I've been a victim of racial prejudice. Yeah, so I know exactly what it feels like. But now I'm in a position to make a difference, to take my community and make it better. And the way I do that is I set a high standard. I have high expectations. We're all going to be treated the same. And then you have a zero tolerance for it. Zero tolerance for anyone who steps outside of that circle. So it's great that we have all that training. That's wonderful. But our leaders, our managers, the people who are in charge have to make sure that we follow that we enforce it, that we make sure all our people stay on track. I know that you've seen in the media sometimes that sometimes people drift over to the dark side, and you hear about it in the media. That does not define who we are, though. Do not take what one deputy did and think that the entire department is that way, because that's not the case. People change sometimes. Sometimes they make bad choices. But the real key and what you ought to pay attention to is how we react to that, how we go about it, how we deal with it. That is key to what I think is indicative of what kind of department we have. And I would tell you that this, and I've seen it all the way up to the top and all the way to the bottom, is that we do react to that. You think we like to know that, you think we like to see a deputy who has done something wrong and wears this uniform? It reflects badly on all of us, but it doesn't define who we are. That deputy did something that he shouldn't have done, and there's consequences for that. But the fact is that from the top down to the bottom, we believe in treating people fairly, right, and that message travels down. And I can only, and like I said, I speak for Encinitas, and I can tell you, I know both sides. I've seen both sides, been there, done that. And I'm not going to allow my folks to treat anyone any differently than what is expected. They will be professional. They will try to do the right thing. And I know they make mistakes, and that doesn't make them bad people because they make mistakes. They try to do their best. They try to do what's right. But me as the leader, I have to set the standard and make sure that they do that. And I do that here. And we haven't had that issue here at North Coastal that I'm aware of. We have never had that issue here. And we're not going to have that issue here. And if we do, then I will deal with that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thanks a lot, Captain. And I'm with Encinitas for Equality, by the way, and I look forward to working with you over the months to come.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to meet with your group, and we'll meet on a regular basis. I'm good with that, and I think it'll be positive. I really do. So I'm looking forward to it.
All righty.
Thank you, Marlon. We're getting close to 8, so we're going to need to, yeah. So the next.
That's Jennifer's way of telling me I'm talking too much.
No, it's great that Captain Taft is here. We might go a little over if that's okay. Yeah. We don't have too many more, but just want to make sure we get through everyone. So thank you.
Is Ron Medic on the line?
He is not. So next is Cecilia Cresto.
And the next 3 will be Cecilia Cresto, Renat Yeomans, and Desiree Smith. And Cecilia, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thanks so much. And Sheriff, thank you so much for this meeting. It's really great to use technology in this way and really keep everybody connected. I hope that you continue to do these because I really believe that more people in Encinitas will participate and really enjoy getting to know you remotely. I think really what I'd like to do is thank you and your team for everything that you're doing for all citizens in Encinitas. I think that your deputies and the people that we've interacted with in Cardiff have been exceedingly professional, well-spoken, articulate, and extremely helpful to residents where we are. So thank you for that. I also wanted to let you know that we're looking forward to continue to work with you and your team on the speeding issues which are taking place on San Alejo and Vulcan. You know, we notice as residents that the speeding during this terrible pandemic has, I believe, and I'm sure a lot of my neighbors believe, the speeding has increased, and many times there's not enough resources and patrols to help curtail people by writing tickets. We are very blessed to live in Cardiff near the rail trail, and we all love the rail trail. However, we're hoping to work with you and your team to further reduce the hazards being posed to pedestrians, animals, small children, and visitors with the speeding traffic on the street. And, you know, maybe one question I have for you is, have you been aware, or are you aware of the speeding issues on the street, and have you been tasked with looking into it?
Yes and yes. So I was made aware of the speeding issues. Yes, it's been a huge problem. I have tasked my folks with going out there and doing selective enforcement. In other words, not every day, but put in their schedule that they need to be out there either as a visible deterrent or enforcing. Again, when we do enforce, we do zero tolerance. Everybody gets a ticket. It's that simple. If you're speeding, you're getting a ticket. Yes, it's very frustrating because I'm really sympathetic. I put myself in your shoes. If I lived on that street and I have kids, you know, that concerns me. And so that it's very frustrating because that's not the only area that we have problems in. But again, because I have limited resources, although, again, let me remind you, Encinitas has more traffic deputies than any of our contract cities. So the city understands how important traffic deputies are. And we try our best, honestly. And I do read those complaints and concerns. When you email them or call or contact the city about, they do forward those to me. And again, I'm telling you, I wish I could tell you face to face, but we do go out there. We try to do enforcement. We just can't do it every single day. But it is frustrating. I know how you feel, but it is on my radar and we try to do it. I would say continue to send me that. We'll continue to go out there and do the best we can.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I know that a group in the community is working with the city engineer.
2 minutes are up.
To help. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, Ronette, you're up for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm also in Encinitas for Equality. And I was curious when you were showing the amount of violations in Encinitas, I was curious how many traffic violations has your station issued to people of color in the last years, because it wasn't broken down into race or ethnicity. So I was wondering, can we see those kinds of statistics, please?
Yeah, I don't know. You mean all the moving violations?
Any of the violations broken down into the people who were issued the citations and tickets, what their ethnicity or their race was.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that the majority of people that we stop, I can tell you what that ethnicity is as far as contacts, and it's well over 70%. But again, you focus on race, I don't. Okay, my folks do not focus on that. And you know, if I can get those numbers, I'll get those numbers. But my folks don't focus on that. And if they did, that would be a problem. We focus on people speeding. It's as simple as that for me. If you're violating it, no matter what color you are, I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're male or female. You're going to get a citation. If you're speeding, you get a ticket. You can focus on race. I'm not, and my folks better not focus on race. So I don't know what else you want me to say about that, but you know, if you want to look at numbers, I can try to find them, but I don't know if I have them. I have no problem being transparent. Trust me. There's nothing that I do that is not transparent. I am who I am, but you know, I don't spend my days focusing on what color a person is, or whether or not we stopped them because they were Black or white or Hispanic. Did they commit a crime? Yes, they did. That's what matters to me. Did you commit a crime? Yes. Then you are either going to get a citation or you're going to go to jail. If you are speeding, it is unsafe. I used to be a traffic sergeant and a traffic lieutenant. Yes, I'm very sensitive about people speeding and driving unlawfully. So I stopped plenty of people and gave plenty of tickets, and never once did I think about whether they were a particular skin color or not. You want to create this issue that somehow we only cite minorities. That is not the case, and I'm not going to let you leave here with that kind of impression that somehow the deputies in Encinitas are doing that, because they are not.
I'm not making it a race question. I'm putting in the context of the Black Lives Matter movement, and,
Okay.
and that's where I'm coming from.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ronette.
Okay, we have Desiree Smith.
Desiree and Mary are not in the meeting, so that leaves Patty Robbins.
So the next three will be Patty Robbins, Caitlin Steinberg, and Mary Lou Schultz. And so Patty Robbins, you're up.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me okay? I think I pressed it. Okay, great. Thanks for having this forum tonight. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot. You mentioned a few times much earlier tonight that Encinitas is a great place to live, and I totally agree. I love living here. But you and I know that we don't really live in a bubble, and the recent nationwide events have led a lot of us to kind of reflect on the role of police in our communities. So I just want to know what you plan to do or ask your deputies to do just to make sure that at the local level, we're keeping trust in police officers.
That's a good question. And you're absolutely right. We don't live in a bubble, and I get it. We really don't. And what's happened nationwide happens here. You know, as far as how we do business, I really ask my deputies, I set the standard. The standard is you will always be professional. You will treat everyone the same. You don't selectively pick out any one particular group. You follow the laws and policy, and there is really no in between for that. There are no exceptions for that. You know, we do have, remember, we hire from the human race. And so the human race has flaws. We have a very good process of hiring people, a very good background process. And occasionally, you know, maybe a bad apple gets through. Every organization has some bad seeds, and we are not exempt from that. And I understand that. But as I expect my sergeants, I expect my lieutenants and myself to pay attention to those red flags where we feel that person did it based on race or sexual preference, or you know, we have to monitor that as a supervisors, my sergeants, lieutenants, and myself, and we try to keep an eye on that. And if we identify in any case, no matter how small, that has happened, that we have to address it, and we will address it. So you're right, we don't live in a bubble. What's happening is real. I can only control what I can control, and that is to make sure my folks are always professional, that they're doing the right thing every single time. There are no excuses for not doing that. And then if they're not, you take whatever action as the leader here, you take whatever action is necessary to correct the situation. But again, I can only control this part of it. And that's it. And that's what I try to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Okay, next we have Caitlin Steinberg.
All right. Hi, can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Caitlin Steinberg. I am a reporter with the Coast News. So Captain Taft, a couple weeks ago in an interview, we talked about just the massive amount of responsibilities and training that your deputies have to deal with a wide host of issues in North County. So my question is, currently, what type of outside healthcare providers and groups help your police department? And in the future, do you see that type of discussion continuing? As in, would you consider bringing in other mental health or other professional organizations to assist the department in dealing with some of these issues where your police end up acting like marriage counselors, or they go in and they deal with people who are on the spectrum with mental illnesses and things like that? How do you foresee that conversation going in the future?
Well, a couple different ways. I know that there's some talks in putting together a mental health crisis response team. I'm not involved in those talks, so I don't know what's happening with that. Here's what I would like as a captain. I wish I had more PERT nurses. They are extremely helpful. They are very well trained. I have 2, and that's great, but I wish I could have 4, and I wish I could operate that 24/7 to respond to all of our mental health calls. That would be a nice to have. And I know that the department has hired more, we've invested in more. So we are making progress in the right direction as far as incorporating civilian trained staff to work with our folks and ride with our folks so that they can deal with that individual and not the deputies. So we made a lot of progress. There was a time when we had very few PERT nurses with us. And then if you didn't have one, you'd have to call another station. But the department has gotten a lot smarter and prepared our deputies better. And now that we require more training for them to have, I would like to see more civilian experts in the field, like the PERT nurses that are 24/7. But I think we're moving in the right direction on it. And we've identified an issue, and now we're working to do that. Again, there is talk about the mental health crisis response teams, which I think is a good idea also, because our folks could use some help. They really could. And we're put into a lot of situations. Like you said, we can be marriage counselors and parents and things like that. A lot of things are expected of us, but I think we're moving in the right direction. We could use more help though.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Okay, next we have Mary Lou Schultz.
Mary's not online, so we have
Molly Woods. So the next 3 we have up would be Molly Woods, Felicia Rollins, and Jody White. And it's your turn, Molly. It looks like you're unmuted.
Hi, this is Molly. I am actually one of the co-founders of Encinitas group, and I wanted to share right now reading Me and White Supremacy, and it talks about colored blindness. And part of the problem with colored blindness and not acknowledging race is it allows white, and it seems Black Americans, to remain devoid of the realities of systemic racism and position themselves as colorblind superheroes. Meanwhile, issues related to police brutality, racial profiling, and racial disparities in healthcare, employment, and housing are dismissed and minimized, or flat out swept under the rug and ignored altogether. And so in a study that was done that analyzed 1.8 million people stopped by 8 of the largest police agencies in California, found that Blacks are more likely to have firearms pointed at them by police and to be detained, handcuffed, and searched. But when searched, police are less likely to find drugs, weapons, or other contraband compared to whites. This study was done as a result of AB 953, known as RIPA. So my question to you, Sheriff Taft, is if you can't acknowledge that racial profile is real and it happens in the police force, and you yourself are citing colorblindness, how are you going to lead this department to address what is happening not only in this country, but in Encinitas? And I'll mention William as someone who has been racially profiled in Encinitas 2 years and tasered because he had a diabetic reaction.
Thank you for your comment. Next question.
Oh, I'm not being answered?
No, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm not going to get into a debate with you on this topic.
But I just don't understand how
Thank you for your comment. I'm not going to get into a debate with you.
Okay, well, I guess since you're going to be meeting regularly with E4E, that we can have these conversations monthly.
Thank you, Molly.
Okay, and next we have Felicia Rollins. Felicia, you're on the floor. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Hi. Hi, sorry. I'm Felicia Rollins. I'm also with Encinitas for Equality. Thank you so much for your time and hosting this forum. I wanted to just ask, you had mentioned, the occasional bad apples or people that have gone to the dark side, and just wonder how you weed those folks out of the force, or if you've had those experiences here in Encinitas.
In all honesty, we've had those incidences. Not a lot of them, but there are people which have made bad decisions, or I should say just policy violations that have concerned me. We take very quick action on that. It's a zero tolerance. I've never wavered from that. So again, we're not a perfect organization. We have people who have made mistakes, who have done things that they shouldn't have done. Again, we hire from the human race, and these folks are not perfect. Being a cop doesn't mean you're perfect. So it is really up to the organization, and what is important is how they react to that. I've had to deal with that. I told you, I worked in internal affairs where I had to deal with it. And as a captain of both a North Coastal Station and in charge of, when I was the lieutenant in charge of Imperial Beach Station, you're gonna have employees that you have to deal with. They have to be removed and disciplined, or they have to be removed from the department. That's gonna happen. The important thing is that whether I identified it or another employee did, we do a lot of self-policing because the majority of people in our department are good people. They work very hard. They're honest. They're just like you. They're not any different. They just wear this uniform, but they're not any different than anybody else. They go to the same churches that you do. They go to the same restaurants and schools, and they're the same people. This is the uniform. This is the job we do, but it doesn't make us different. It doesn't define who we are. Again, we come from the human race, and there are issues, and people have issues. We have a process in place where we scrutinize in a background process and try to get the people with the highest morals and integrity and that are honest and truthful. We try to get those kind of people in our team. But through the course of years, maybe people change. Sometimes they change. And it's hard to predict who's going to change and who's not. But we do have a lot, like I said, most of our internal affairs are people that we've identified, and that's very telling. They are not from the public. They are who we internally have identified and removed them. Again, it makes us all look bad. And 99% of us are good people trying to do the right thing. But you're always going to have some that, for some unexplained reason, make bad choices. And that's the reality of what we do. That's the reality of any occupation, whether you're a teacher, a priest, a student, you work at a warehouse, within any organization, you're going to have people who make bad decisions. So The truth is is in our internal affairs, where most of our folks are identified internally, not through the public. And so, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess just to follow up, do you have sort of standard mental health checkups, especially given the pandemic and the recent events with, addressing systemic racism and everything else?
Yeah, no, we don't have that actually. We do have counselors that are always available for our deputies, but we don't have standard mental health checkups. And that's actually not a bad idea. Checking on the emotional welfare of our folks. We don't have that in place that I'm aware of, but that's actually not a bad idea because we deal with a lot of trauma. I can't even tell you the kind of trauma that I've seen both on the department and when I was in the military. So having a regular checkup, whether it's like maybe every 5 years or something like that, that's actually not a bad idea. And I kind of agree with you.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Felicia.
Next up, we have Jody White. Jody White, you have 2 minutes. And please unmute your phone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Good evening. I am also one of the co-founders of Encinitas for Equality. And my question is really, I'm curious about your thoughts on challenging the power of the San Diego Sheriff Union and ending the self-policing and having truly independent third parties handle incidences that require corrective action and disciplinary actions, because it seems like the current system doesn't hold officers accountable, and the independent curb group isn't independent when they're made up of commanders. And Claire, it also seems isn't completely independent when they submit their report to the sheriff.
Yeah,
So there doesn't seem to be a lot of transparency there.
Yeah, I disagree with that, but my focus is Encinitas. What's the issue with Encinitas? Do you have one, or do you have it with the department?
Well, I'm just really trying to.
I only run Encinitas. I'm asking you.
Oh, well, okay.
What is the issue?
I can ask you something about Encinitas because I'm a mother of 3.
Do you see that there's an issue with how the deputies do business here in the city of Encinitas? That's my question to you.
So as a mother of 3, I was surprised to see that about a quarter of our budget as a city is placed in the policing department. Okay. And as your PowerPoint presentation showed before, there's very little crime. So I'm wondering why there is a request for an increase of budget next year when so many of our other services need more funds.
I don't do budget, okay? That's the city council, and that's an issue that you should bring up with them. I staff as the city wants to be staffed. I respond to crimes, and we deal with that. As far as the budget, that has nothing to do with me, and that has nothing to do with my job. If you have issues with the budget and how it's divvied up, then you need to take that to city council. What does that have to do with how we do business here?
Well, sir, I don't actually know if you request it or not, because this is my first opportunity to engage with you and ask that question.
Okay. I'd like to just keep it focused on the residents and what we do here. If my deputies are somehow being unprofessional, or we're not serving the city as we need to, those are the issues here. The budget has nothing to do with me and how we conduct business. You're right, crime is low here, and that's how it's going to stay. And I'm going to push and push and push to get it even lower. But as far as funding and all of that, you could take that up with city council. That's not appropriate for this forum. Thank you.
But sir, if you asked, or if you just said that you would like to have more mental health checks or more PERT employees, then you must have to submit a budget request for that, correct?
No, ma'am, that's not the way the sheriff's department works.
Okay, well, I wasn't aware, so thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Okay, and the next 3 that we have up are Rob Riordan, Annie McLeod, and Michael Fulkerson. And so, Rob Riordan, it's your turn.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Captain Taft, for doing this. And thank you for your service. And on behalf of my 3 daughters, I have to thank you for also ensuring that your deputies always have plenty of stickers on hand. So thank you for that. My question is kind of along the lines of the gal from the Coast News, which is kind of when you talk about some of these other interactions that maybe could be handled better by other resources, could you estimate just kind of what percentage of those total interactions could be handled better with either PERT nurses or other resources? And then what percentage of those would you say still do need a deputy there because there could be a dangerous situation? And the second question is just kind of, hey, what's the best way that the public can actually show support for your deputies that are doing a stressful and dangerous job that seems to be getting even more stressful and dangerous?
That's a good question. That's a hard question to answer, just because I'm not that into every call that comes out. You know, I can tell you that of what we call the 5150 violent calls, our folks, our PERT deputies go to 38% of them. Now, as far as the rest of them, majority of the time, we don't have an incident. Like a use of force, we don't have that. So the majority of the calls, we never have a problem. And we do have a PERT deputy that responds to a little over a third of them. However, it would be great if we had a PERT deputy respond to all of them. So I don't really know the answer to that as far. Yeah, I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, is there a way that we can, as the public, either advocate, do we advocate towards city council, or do you make a request to other departments to say, hey, I could really use some help here. This is the kind of resourcing I need from your department?
It really starts, our budget starts with the County Board of Supervisors. We present to them our needs or wants or desires, whatever, and then they can approve or not approve our budget. And if they sense a need, as though, and we have, our mental health services have grown exponentially over the last 5 years. I mean, there's been a huge difference in what we had here and what we have here. So the board recognizes that. Our department recognizes it. Of course, we can always improve. We can always have more. Everyone always wants more. Like me, I want more. It's just that, you know, there's only so much funding out there. And maybe I'm not in that position to make those kind of decisions of how we manage the budget that we have as far as our services. But of course, I would want more per clinicians. And we've had more, we're getting more. I just don't know what is next, I guess you could say. You know, my world is very limited where I am. I'm just here. It's very limited. But it's very helpful to have more of that. But I don't know. We typically don't have a issue dealing with our 5150s as far as use of force. Occasionally we do, but most of those turn out okay. We get the person the needed help by taking them to county mental health or someplace else to get them the help. So we do make an effort to get them to the place because, you know, I won't say that our jails aren't capable of handling that, because we do have a process in our jails where people who are mentally ill come in, they're diagnosed, they have a psychiatric a doctor assigned to them, they're in a specific monitoring program with medication and visits. We try to keep that going, and then we try to do follow-up. So we have a dedicated mental health kind of a system where we try to help people. It's not just about incarcerating people anymore. We've gotten away from that. It's not about incarcerating these folks. It's about trying to help them. So I'd love to have more, but this is what I have.
Yeah, makes sense. And we can start with Board of Supervisors. And how can we say thank you, by the way?
You know, honestly, if you could just say thank you to the deputies out there, they're the ones who make this place what it is. They do all the work. They are committed to this place. I'm telling you right now, these folks that are at North Coastal are absolutely committed to making this a better community and trying to do the best that they can. And sometimes just saying thank you to them, they hear so much negative stuff all the time, and they're used to that. They accept it, and that's what it is. And there are people out there who thank them. And I think just saying that when you see them is very, very helpful.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, and so we have next Andy McLeod. And you're muted, Andy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. That's great. Well, I think everybody on this call tonight has come to a new understanding of the complexity and levels of difficulties involved in running and being a deputy at the Encinitas Sheriff's Station. And I, for one, am really glad that this law enforcement forum has been held tonight. I am curious, given that, you know, deputies are imperfect just like everybody, and you've talked about how some struggle more with the kind of behavior that you try to uphold than others. How many complaints have been made in, say, the past 3 years about deputies?
Okay.
And have any of them been resolved in ways that have involved discipline to the officers?
I think we might have that number for you.
Okay.
There hasn't been a lot here. And the ones that I've had are gone. They are no longer on this department, or they are pending some sort of discipline. So there hasn't been a lot here at North Coastal, but we have had them. So I just want to be upfront with you. Not all of us are perfect.
Right.
Again, but rest assured that the captain at this station will not tolerate that. I absolutely have a zero tolerance for bad behavior or deputies who are not professional. And again, it's not a systemic problem here. Most of these folks are really good people, but the ones that haven't been are not at this station anymore. And Nadia, do you have a number for him?
So on our homepage for our website, we have our open data listed where we provide the use of force reports as well as our internal affairs report. We're still publishing the latest for 2019, but looking back at 2017 and 2018, the community issued 6 in 2017. The department generated 98. In 2018, the community issued 9, and the department looked at 105, if that provides context.
Okay, great.
And that's basically saying that when I say that we police our own, those 98 or 100, those are all ours, generated not by the public, by us. And that's pretty standard. Like I said, if I see a problem with one of my folks and I think it needs an internal affairs investigation, it will be. And having worked in internal affairs, they are very strict when it comes to, did they violate policy? If they did, then we're going to deal with that. And there's a process too. There's an appeal process, civil service process, you know, that deputies are afforded. Again, though, but we've had some here, being very transparent, but you haven't had a lot at all. And that's, you know.
If I may add, in that community concerns document we referenced on page 11, there is a process breakdown to give you behind the scenes look at the different steps involved in the complaint investigation process.
That's great to hear. And I have a clarifying question. When you're talking about the complaints, the number of complaints and, you know, how they've been dealt with in the past 3 years, are you talking about citizen complaints or complaints within the department?
Those figures for her both.
They're both.
For both?
Yeah, those are both.
How many of them were referred to CLRB? And do you keep track of how those ones are resolved?
You know,
we probably do, don't you think?
CLRB, I think, publishes their own annual report, but I'm sorry, about in June. I believe it was the 23rd board meeting. The board looked at ramping up their resources and staffing for a clerk. With that, part of the recommendations was for clerk to provide a public presentation to the board on their year findings. So that's just another step that they're going to be providing, you know, on future annual basis, report out on the findings impacting sheriff and probation.
And that's really a good,
Okay.
you should know that information.
Yes.
Again, you're a taxpaying citizen. You should have that kind of information about internal problems like this, and clerks should make that available to you. And I definitely agree with that.
Right.
It's something the public should know.
And who makes the decisions to refer complaints to CLRB? Is that something that you handle in-house, or do you get people from the community to help with that?
That's straight from the community. They can go directly to clerk. CLRB is the independent commission.
They're the independent ones.
Yes. So the complaints that go from citizens into your department, do they ever get passed to CLRB, or is it always handled within the department?
Those stay within IA.
Those stay within IA.
Oh, I see. And does that get handled by you?
Huh?
Do those complaints get handled by you and other
Yes,
management?
they do. I will issue, well, I will recommend discipline. The discipline is approved by the sheriff corps, but typically the captain of the station will recommend the discipline.
Okay.
And
So the sheriff has a board.
Andy, your 2 minutes are up. Thank you, though.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
To clarify real quick, CLRB does have their annual reports on their website. So you can.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have Michael Fulkerson. Michael, you're currently muted. And you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Captain, for being here. I'm also with Encinitas for Equality. And earlier, you encouraged anyone to call for an officer if they see something. But there are times a call is a no-win situation where your deputy can be unfairly thought of as racially profiling. As an example, how do you expect an officer to handle a situation when they get called to a neighborhood for a suspicious person and it turns out to be a person of color who belongs there? Should the officer stay colorblind in their duty when that person has a good chance of feeling singled out for the color of their skin? How should they respond?
Again, if you have an officer or a deputy that you feel that you somehow were racially profiled, or you feel that the deputy intentionally is targeting you because of your ethnicity or your sex or whatever reason, please call a sergeant. Just call the supervisor and have them get involved.
Oh no, I wanted to explain a situation where it is unfair to the officer. Okay, you guys responded to a call.
I see. Okay.
The call happened to be a person of color.
Yeah.
And right then and there, you're stuck. You look like the bad guy. How can you not look like the bad guy right then?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Because you're gonna look like the bad guy. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to respond to that.
I wish there would be an answer.
Huh?
I think it'd be great, you know, maybe in discussions with our group, that it is another way of addressing on a real personal level the things that happen, you know?
And yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to your group. I think that if you haven't paid attention to who I am and how I am, and figured out what I'm like, I think that you'll see that it can be a really good relationship. So I'm looking forward to talking to your group. I really am. But that's a tough question to answer.
Okay, well, mull it over. Thank you.
I don't know what to say.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, so next we have Laura Phil. Laura, you're on the line. And you're muted, Laura.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm good.
Hi, my name's Laura. I'm with Encinitas for Equality. First, I do want to mention that it is concerning that this is a community forum on law enforcement, meaning the community should be able to verbalize their concerns freely rather than being filtered. Your community deserves to be heard, not interrupted, or have their questions answered to the best of your ability, even if it is difficult. As a psychiatric nurse for the past 11 years, I uphold a code of ethics in which I took an oath to do no harm, protect and promote human rights, advocate for the community, collaborate with the public and other disciplines to improve our practice. As fellow servers of the community, I expect similar from you and your department. Part of that includes listening to and evaluating criticism. From profession to profession, I hope you actively engage, from professional to professional, I hope you actively engage and listen to your community's concerns, even the more difficult to address. These questions or comments are not personal attacks, but valid concerns. To avoid race in my mind is unacceptable. My nurses complete competencies regarding culture and race every year, and if they're not completed, they do not work until they do complete them. I think you should consider similar or more for your team. As for my question, working in other psychiatric hospitals, I've observed clinicians skew documentation that avoided documentation using use of force when they in fact did. Do you see this as an issue in your department? And do supervisors ever conduct scheduled and unscheduled drop-ins to deputy calls to monitor this?
Okay, first of all, like I said, I'm an honest person. Okay, this is my forum. I wanted to focus on Encinitas, and that's what I'm doing. So I am not avoiding hard questions. I'm here to answer questions. So you're trying to tell me that I'm avoiding hard questions is just totally off base. This is my forum. This is how I want to do it. I want to focus on Encinitas. I'm not focusing on this other stuff. As far as
sir, you're serving your community, but you interrupted other people, and it's not fair.
This is my forum. Okay, this is about Encinitas.
Exactly, and my question is regarding.
This is not about all these other issues. This is about the people here, and that's where I'm trying to keep it. You want to take
so my understanding that this was a community
I didn't
forum.
say anything when you were talking. Dialogue is a two-way street. Communication is a two-way street. Listening is a two-way street. You had your prepared statement, you read it. Now I'm responding. Again, you want honest conversation. If you think for one instant that I'm afraid to address hard questions, then you haven't been listening for 2.5 hours, because I've addressed hard questions. I'm here to address questions, but I'm here for the city of Encinitas. That's who I speak for. That's who I represent. Nothing else. I can't speak for all the other stuff that's going around us because I don't know. I don't know. You know, I don't know about certain things in our department. I don't speak for our department. Our sheriff does. Sheriff Corps speaks for the sheriff's department. I speak for Encinitas. I'm not aware that there's any use of force issues in the city of Encinitas that we have a problem with. Does that answer your question?
No, my question is skewing documentation. That was my question.
Okay.
Have you ever experienced that, or is there any way that you guys monitor that potential issue? And this is related to Encinitas.
As it relates to Encinitas?
Correct.
No, I'm not. Okay. Section, what is this? Required comprehensive reporting? Yeah, requires officers to report each time they use force or threaten to use force against civilians. So that's part of our policy. Whenever an officer uses force, we're required to have them documented. If they don't document it, we do review body camera. That's a problem for us. Again, we don't make exceptions. You either follow the rules or there's consequences for not following policy. But we haven't had that problem here in Encinitas. That's all I can speak for. That's all I will answer for. And again, I wanted a forum that I focus on here. And this is my community forum, and this is how I'm going to go about it. The residents deserve to know what's going on here. That's what's most important to them. So as far as your prepared statement, I think I've given an answer for it. I appreciate it. Look forward to talk to your group, and we're going to move on to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, next up we have Jesse Traller Ojeda.
morning, trustees. My husband, Donna. And thank you very much for the forum today. Really appreciate the time.
We can't hear you.
Jesse, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Captain Taft. So in my takeaway from the presentation, really the message that I received from you is particularly in going over the report and the slides is that, really feel that you're doing everything right. And it didn't seem that there was a lot of room for improvement. That was the perspective that I took based on your discussion. So I'm a big fan of continuous improvement, and I really want to know what you as a captain at the North Coast and the North Coastal Station specifically can do to improve your law enforcement with regards to providing fair, safe, and unbiased policing. So where specifically do you think that you can make some of the changes?
Great, that's a good question because it's specific for Encinitas, and I love answering those type of questions. Now, you are absolutely right. Every process can be improved, and trust me, we can improve here. Okay, there are a lot of things where I've identified that say, okay, we can do that better, we can do that better, we can do that better. You want to know some of them? I think we can be faster in responding. I think that our response times are too slow, although they're pretty good. Me personally, I think they're too slow. I think we need to lower our response times and get to places a lot quicker than we do, particularly some of our lower priority calls. So that's where I'm pushing for improvement. The other thing I'm pushing for improvement is what we call deputy initiated activities. I want my deputies to be more proactive. They're not proactive enough for me. We need to be out there. We need to be driving around more. We need to be contacting those where we believe some sort of suspicious activity is going, not contacting people because they're a different color, or they look different, or they're transients or something like that. But we need to be out in the field more. We need more proactivity. And that's where I think we fall short. I think we fall short on response times. And I think there's other areas that we can improve on. So not everything is roses. And that's not the message I was trying to say. And I know that's not what you meant, but not everything is perfect. You're right. You're absolutely spot on with that. There are so many areas that we can improve on. And meeting with groups is a way to do that. Talking to the community like this is a way to do that. I don't back down from addressing anybody. It doesn't matter to me because I find that every person may have a potential good idea. And again, we've gotten so far, it's like people don't talk anymore. They don't communicate. They just yell at each other, or they have an agenda and it's their agenda. And if you're not on that team, you're obviously wrong. And that's just not the case. You're right. We need, there are a lot of places that we can improve. And I just mentioned those. Not everything is perfect here. No, it's not. And there's much room for growth. Absolutely right on that one.
Well, thank you for that. I want to mention that I'm also a member of Encinitas for Equality. Yes. And I really enjoyed this opportunity to have the forum, which I really do think is more our forum. It's not yours, but it's the whole community. So I'm glad to have this discussion with you together.
And you know what, I'm going to comment on that. This forum was something that I wanted, and I put the rules in because I wanted it to focus and stay focused on Encinitas. I understand your group has other things, other agendas, but I'm not going to necessarily go there if it doesn't apply to Encinitas. So I have to control the way we do this because the majority of people out there care about their city and what I'm doing for their city. I'm in charge of it, and they expect me to do the right things and make sure my folks are doing the right things. And I need to focus on this community. They're the people that I work for. And other social agendas like race relations that are outside of my control, or defunding or budgets and things like that, that's outside of my control. You can't expect me to answer those sort of things. This is the uniform I wear, the department that I represent. And I'm not going to embarrass my sheriff or my department or the people that work for me. I understand you guys have your own agenda. You have things that you are concerned about. There are things which I address or won't address. And you make a good point. Nothing's perfect. No human being is perfect that I've ever come across. So there's always room for improvement, and I believe in that. Thanks for your comment.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
The last two speakers are Anna Reyes and Kristen Fay. And Anna Reyes, you're up next. And you're muted, Anna. Anna, you need to unmute your speaker. Microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anna? There you go. Anna, can you hear us?
Can't hear her.
Mm-mm. We're unable to hear you, Anna.
Hello, can you hear me?
There you go.
Yes, we can.
It's a bit strange because it says Anna, but my name's Rachel McHale actually, and for some reason I've come up as Anna. But I did register for this call and was confused I hadn't had any messages. So am I allowed to ask my question?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, sorry, that's why I wasn't responding. So yeah, thank you so much for holding this session. And it's wonderful as a resident of Encinitas to feel like we're part of this. You'll be getting bored with this, but I'm also a recent member of the Encinitas for Equality. And I'm really looking forward to us having a conversation with you moving forward, Captain Taft. I think it would be great to kind of get some input from the community and, as you say, work together to look for real improvements as we move forward together. One question I've got was how, what's always on my mind is what feels safe for me as a white woman with respect to policing in my local community might feel very different to a Black person or any person of color when they see a police officer. So I guess I'm just wondering, how do we as a community work to make sure that all people within the Encinitas community feel safe when they see your officers either patrolling or coming to the scene of a call out? How do we work to move that forward? Because it's definitely a problem where some people, their view of safety is different to others when they see a deputy arrive on a scene.
That's a good question, and you're right. And thank you for keeping it about Encinitas, because that's a very valid point, because different people have different experiences with cops. I can tell you from growing up in Oakland and Oakland PD, trust me, I had a very different experience with law enforcement back then, and it was not positive. And that was part of my experience. And maybe what drove me to get into this. But you're right, people have different experiences, and you can't downplay anyone's particular experience with a police officer. What you can do, and it's an ongoing effort, is you've got to build a trust. You've got to work on building that bridge and keeping that line of communication open. People have to trust you. No matter what race you are, they have to believe that you are going to do the right thing, that they can trust you, that they can feel safe with you. And that takes effort. That takes a lot of effort on our part. And as long as we continue to set high standards, to be professional with people, and to do the right thing, we can continue to build upon that. But you're right, there are people who are afraid of us. And I understand that because they may have a different experience with us. But the only thing we can do is to continue to try at every contact is to ensure and get people to start trusting us and believe that we really are there to help. We really are there to serve you. We really are there to protect this community. Remember, we're the people who risk our lives for people that we don't even know. Like, I don't know you, but the fact is, if it was a situation where I had to go into it and you were in danger, I understand the risk involved in that. My folks do that every day. They risk their lives for people that they simply do not know because it is part of their job. But we have to continue to work to build trust in the community. And that takes a lot of work because we can lose it in an instant. Like now, you have something that happens in a completely different state and it's an impacted everything that's going on around us. I didn't do it. My deputies didn't do it. But they're impacted by it. So we have to continuously work, not only here, but as a department towards building that trust. And it takes effort. It's not easy. But things like this, when you meet with a group and they get to know who you are, like I'm going to meet with you guys, that establishes a connection. Now, we're going to disagree on a lot of stuff. So don't, we're going to disagree. But we're there, but you will find that we will have common ground too. And that is where we start. We start on the common ground and we work and build from there. We have disagreements. You have disagreements with your parents. You have disagreements with your brothers and sisters. That's going to happen. But at least we start on the common ground. We say, okay, here's where we all have commonalities. Here's where we have differences. And now let's work towards those. And I guarantee by the end of this year, me and this group will work together and we'll make something different. We will make some changes. We will do what's best for this community. And remember, I focus on this community. That's what I focus on, nothing else. Okay.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, right here.
Okay, thank you.
Rachel, if I may add, just because you're pulling at my heartstrings right now in the realm of community relations, Captain Taft mentioned at the beginning of his presentation the significance behind community policing. And, we can't do our jobs without the support and collaboration with our community members. And in my particular role with the department is I really try to leverage entities such as yourself, or like Encinitas for Equality, where you all come from diverse walks of life. You have your pulse on different community members. But we hope to, once the captain meets with you, to really pull from your experiences and your connections and allow us to leverage the bridge building that you'll do for us in terms of connecting us to these communities that may not be as receptive or comfortable with us. We recognize there is committee members that in the past, for his with deportation and getting into ICE and allowing us to explain our role where we don't enact immigration enforcement. So a part of our population where they think that we still have that role, we're trying really hard to fortify and build those relationships with them and allow us to come and build those dialogues, whether it's through presentations or allowing us to interact with our newcomers and refugees, to allow that acculturation process to not be overwhelming and allowing them to know how to interact with law enforcement, what constitutes a 911 call. We have materials like what to expect at a traffic stop, because this is stuff we don't want it to be a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise, but for individuals, we have resources. And if we don't have those resources, we'll be more than happy to create it so we can lend ourselves to our community to kind of establish that connection of trust. And again, going back to the main intent of community policing and having those lines of communication in place. So that's just, I look forward to, the opportunities that the conversations will come with you and the captain.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And I think it would be nice, even if people, are saying things that have come outside the bubble of Encinitas. Like you said, Captain Taft, it does actually, you don't just operate in a bubble because of all the things that are happening at the moment. As Marley was saying earlier, it does impact on the views that the community have of police generally. And I think it would have been respectful for you to have answered Marley's question earlier rather than just move on.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay,
Thank you.
The last speaker now is Kristen Fay. Kristen, you have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess I'm closing it out for the night. I am also with Encinitas for Equality, and I am a Cardiff resident. I would like to point out that I know we kept saying that, Encinitas for Equality had its own agenda. Encinitas for Equality is made up of community members who mostly live in Encinitas and Cardiff and Leucadia. And the other places they live are the other cities that you serve. Seeing as that the cities that you serve, especially Encinitas, are predominantly white cities, what is your goal in making our city more welcoming to people of color? Because it currently is not. That's why so few in some cases live here, because it is not seen as an area where people of color would find themselves, whether it's in business ownership or living. So what is your goal as, captain for Encinitas for making, through your force, Encinitas more welcoming to people of color?
I don't have a goal like that. I don't have a goal like that. I don't focus on color. I don't focus on race. You keep going back there. It's not about an individual group. You want to take it to race. I don't have a goal like that. I don't know how else to put it to you. I focus on treating everyone the same. I'm just a cop. I'm just law enforcement. I don't know what you want as far as race relations. I have to make sure that we treat everyone the same. So I don't have a goal like that. Why would you think I would? I don't understand that. And so I'm not going to go there with that, because I don't look at life that way. I don't look at what we do that way. I don't focus on who's black, who's white. Oh, I got to make it better for the white people. I got to make it better for the black people. Maybe that's yours, but that is not mine. That is not my folks. I don't talk to them about making sure it's safe for one particular group over another. My goal simply is this. I make this community safe for every single person that comes through here. We don't focus on anything else except you are provided the same service as everyone else. So I don't have a goal like that. I'm sorry if you think I should, but I'm actually not sorry about that. But you can make it about race. You can make it about this color or that color or every other color. But my goals are to make it safe for this community, not to make it safe for one particular group over another. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I don't have a goal like that.
Well, then I'm hoping that we can talk about it more when we meet with you, because though, we don't want race to matter, it does. But I thank you for your time.
Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It matters to a lot of different people because they constantly bring it up. What I'm saying is, as a law enforcement for this area, my focus is not about a race or a group. I have to take care of this community, no matter what you look like or what status you are. And I'm not going to tell my deputies, hey, can you make it sure it's safe for this group of people or make it safe for this group of people? That's not what I do. And that's not what you're going to get from me. What you're going to get is a person who has high morals, high integrity, that follows policy and holds his folks accountable as well as himself, and accepts accountability for everything that happens in this city. I'm not going to focus on a particular group or a particular race or anything like that. I focus on criminals. That's what I do. I focus on areas of crime. That's what I do. I focus on hotspots and traffic accidents and things like that. You can focus on color and other things like that. But my folks are going to focus on what I think is important. And what is important to me is the crime here, the residents, keeping them safe, traffic accidents, slowing people down, preventing certain crimes from occurring, tracking criminals, tracking parolees. Those sort of things is what we do. Getting rid of the drugs or getting rid of as much drugs as I can. That's what I do. That is what I focus on. I don't have any goals of protecting any particular group whatsoever. That's my answer.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kristen.
And that was the final participant.
Well, thank you very much. Well, first, I'd like to thank Captain Taft for being here tonight and taking the time. Thank you, Nadia, for coming as well. Thank you all at home for staying tuned. I appreciate going over. We really did want to make sure that we were able to take all the comments and questions. Captain Taft and I have talked, and we've said that this is the first of many, and we're looking forward to getting through this pandemic and being able to meet face to face and to visit with folks. And just know it's the goal of the city of Encinitas to provide the best city, the best quality, make sure our residents are safe and they feel good about the place they live in. So I just want to thank everyone for taking the time who participated through questions before the forum, tonight during that forum. And if you have any questions or comments that need further answering, you can always email the city, or again, on our website, we do have our law enforcement page, which has all the contacts for the San Diego County Sheriff's Department and specifically our North Coastal Station and Captain Taft. So please feel free to make sure that if you have questions or problems, that you are reaching out to the city so that we can help you. And again, make this the safest and most well-run city so that people have a great quality of life and really are proud to live here. So thank you very much again for the forum tonight, Captain Taft and Nadia. Thank you, staff, for being here. And we appreciate it. And we hope to see you soon.